Welcome to Eternal Love Diaries. In the dim glow of a crowded subway car racing through the underbelly of the city, I realized with a jolt that my hand had brushed against hers, not just any brush, but a lingering one that sent my world spinning into chaos, because in that instant, I knew I had crossed a line that could shatter my carefully rebuilt life forever. My heart pounded like a war drum as I pulled back, stammering an apology, my voice barely audible over the screech of metal on tracks. This was no ordinary mistake. It was the kind that could cost me everything, my job as a dedicated teacher in a small-town school where reputations were fragile as glass, my fragile sense of self after years of isolation following a devastating loss, and worst of all, the chance at human connection I had sworn off since my wife's passing 5 years ago. But as I braced for her anger, her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that burned through the air between us, leaving me with a burning question. Why wasn't she recoiling in disgust, and what hidden pain in her gaze suggested this touch had awakened something long buried in both of us, threatening to unravel secrets that could either heal or destroy. The subway jolted to a stop at the next station, and passengers shuffled around us like ghosts in the night, but she didn't move away. Instead, she leaned in closer, her warm breath mingling with the stale air, and whispered words that froze time. Do it again. My mind raced. Do what? Touch her? Or was this some test, some cruel twist of fate designed to expose my vulnerabilities? I was 42, with salt and pepper hair framing a face etched by grief, dressed in a simple gray coat over a button-up shirt, my fair skin flushed with embarrassment. She appeared to be in her late 30s, her olive skin glowing under the fluorescent lights, clad in a flowing blue dress that swayed with the train's motion, her dark hair cascading over shoulders that seemed to carry the weight of unspoken stories. The stakes skyrocketed. If I obliged, I risked not just a misunderstanding but igniting a fire that could consume the solitary existence I'd built, losing the peace I'd found in routine mornings grading papers and evenings staring at old photos. Yet, her eyes, deep and inviting like a stormy sea, held a mystery that tugged at my soul. What heartache had led her to this moment, and could this accidental encounter be the lifeline we'd both been denying ourselves? As the doors hissed open and closed, I hesitated, my fingers trembling inches from hers. The train lurched forward again, and in that split second, I reached out, brushing her hand once more, this time intentionally, softly, like tracing the edge of a fragile dream. Her response was electric. She didn't pull away but intertwined her fingers with mine, a silent promise that sent waves of emotion crashing over me. We sat there, strangers bound by an invisible thread, the world outside blurring into irrelevance. I learned her name was Elena, a graphic designer who had moved to the city after losing her fiancé in a tragic accident 2 years prior. Her voice, soft and melodic, shared fragments of her life, the lonely nights sketching memories that faded with time, the way she avoided crowds because they reminded her of what she'd lost. I opened up too, more than I had in years, telling her about my wife, Sarah, how her battle with illness had left me a shell of a man, vowing never to let anyone close again. Our conversation flowed like a river finding its path, each word building a bridge over the chasms of our pasts. But as the stations passed, a warmth spread through me, a romantic spark that made my heart ache with possibility. In her touch, I felt alive, inspired to believe that love could bloom from the ashes of sorrow. The hours seemed to melt away in that subway car, but it was only minutes in reality. We exchanged stories of dreams deferred, mine of writing a book about resilience, hers of traveling to places that healed the spirit. Her laughter, light and genuine, pierced the armor I'd worn for so long, and when she rested her head on my shoulder, a deep romantic moment enveloped us, tears welling in my eyes as I realized this wasn't just attraction, it was a soul-deep connection that made me feel seen, truly seen, for the first and forever. The emotional depth of it all threatened to overwhelm me. How could a mistaken touch lead to this vulnerability, this raw exposure of hearts? Yet, as the train approached my stop, doubt crept in. What if this was fleeting, a mirage in the desert of loneliness? I squeezed her hand, whispering, "This feels like fate," and she nodded, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. But just as I stood to leave, she pulled me back, her voice urgent. "Wait, there's something I need to tell you, something that changes everything." My pulse thundered as I sat back down, the cliffhanger hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. What could it be? A secret that would shatter this budding romance, or a revelation that would bind us eternally? The train doors closed, sealing us in for the next leg of the journey, and I braced myself for whatever came next, my mind swirling with questions that demanded answers. Elena's confession came in hushed tones, her hand still in mine as if drawing strength from the contact. She revealed that she had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition months ago, one that made every day a gamble, every connection a risk. Doctors had given her a timeline, not definitive, but enough to make her withdraw from the world, fearing she'd only bring pain to those she cared for. "That's why I said, do it again," she admitted, her voice cracking. In that touch, I felt alive, not just surviving. The emotional intensity hit me like a tidal wave. Here was a woman fighting for every breath, and I'd stumbled into her life by accident, now facing the stakes of loving someone whose time might be borrowed. Tears streamed down my face as I held her closer, our embrace a sanctuary amid the rattling train. This deep romantic moment, charged with vulnerability, inspired a fire within me, to show her the beauty in fleeting moments, to make every second count. We talked through the night, or what felt like it, as the subway looped through the city, sharing dreams of a future we both craved but feared. I described walks in autumn parks, her sketching under golden leaves, me reading aloud from books that spoke of hope. She painted pictures with words of sunsets we'd chased together, her olive skin warmed by the fading light, my fair hand steadying her through uncertain steps. As the conversation deepened, I felt a profound shift. This wasn't mere infatuation but a love born from shared scars, the kind that mends souls. Her blue dress brushed against my coat as she leaned in, our foreheads touching in a gesture of pure intimacy, whispers of "I need you" echoing in the quiet car. The emotional depth brought sobs from deep within, memories of Sarah flooding back, not as pain but as lessons in cherishing the present. Elena's story inspired me to confront my own fears, to embrace the possibility of joy after loss. But as dawn's light began to filter through the windows, signaling the end of our underground odyssey, a new tension arose. She mentioned a upcoming surgery, risky but potentially life-saving, scheduled in just weeks. "If it fails," she said, her eyes searching mine, "I don't want to drag you into this abyss." The stakes loomed larger than ever. What if I lost her before we even began? Yet, in that vulnerability, I found strength, vowing to stand by her side, no matter the outcome. Our bond grew stronger with each passing station, the romantic moments piling like layers of a heartfelt symphony. One evening, it was still that same endless ride in my mind, we shared a stolen glance that spoke volumes, her fingers tracing patterns on my palm, evoking shivers of connection. I told her about the small town I called home, with its quiet streets and familiar faces, inviting her to visit, to escape the city's chaos. She smiled, her dark hair framing a face radiant with hope, and described her apartment filled with canvases of vibrant colors, a reflection of the life she yearned to reclaim. The emotional depth reached new heights when she shared a letter she'd written to her lost fiancé, unread until now, pouring out regrets and unresolved love. Reading it aloud to me, her voice trembling, brought us both to tears, a cathartic release that inspired forgiveness, for ourselves and our pasts. But as the train slowed for what felt like the 100th time, she dropped another bombshell. "There's someone from my past who's returned, claiming they want to help with my treatment, but I suspect ulterior motives." The mystery deepened. Who was this person, and what threat did they pose to our fragile happiness? My heart seized at this revelation, the second cliffhanger gripping me like a vice. Was this intruder a former lover, a family member with hidden agendas, or something more sinister that could tear us apart just as we found each other? The train doors opened to a bustling platform, but we stayed seated, the world outside irrelevant as I demanded to know more, my resolve hardening to protect this woman who had reignited my soul. Elena's explanation unfolded slowly, her words laced with caution. The person was her ex-brother-in-law, a man named Victor, who had always harbored resentment after the accident that claimed his sibling. Now, he offered financial support for the surgery, but Elena sensed strings attached, perhaps control over her life, or worse, a way to exploit her vulnerability. "He's persistent," she said, her olive skin paling at the memory. I felt a surge of protectiveness, my 42-year-old frame tensing under the gray coat, ready to shield her from any storm. This added layer to our story transformed it from chance encounter to epic tale of resilience, our romantic moments now infused with urgency. We spent what felt like hours planning, me suggesting legal advice from a friend, her leaning on my shoulder as we mapped out a future free from shadows. The emotional intensity built to a crescendo when she kissed my cheek softly, a gesture so tender it melted years of isolation, inspiring me to whisper promises of unwavering support. Tears flowed freely as we envisioned a life together, lazy Sundays in my small-town home, her blue dress twirling in the garden I'd plant just for her, my fair hands helping her sketch visions of tomorrow. As days blurred, though in truth, our subway ride had extended into a deliberate detour, choosing to loop the line rather than part, we delved deeper into each other's worlds. I shared childhood tales of stargazing with Sarah, how those nights taught me about infinite possibilities, and Elena recounted her passion for art, how colors healed her fractured heart. Our embraces grew more frequent, each one a deep romantic anchor in turbulent seas, making my chest ache with the beauty of rediscovered love. The stakes remained high, with Victor lurking, we risked not just her health but our budding union. Yet, this challenge inspired growth, I enrolled in online courses on caregiving, determined to be her rock, while she began journaling our story, turning pain into poetry. One particularly emotional evening, as the train hummed through tunnels, she broke down completely, sobbing into my shirt about fears of leaving this world without having truly lived. Holding her, I cried too, our shared grief forging an unbreakable bond that felt destined, uplifting in its purity. The surgery date approached like an inevitable dawn, and we prepared with fervent hope. I accompanied her to appointments, my presence a steadying force, her dark hair often tucked behind her ear as she smiled through anxiety. Romantic dinners followed, picnics on park benches after alighting briefly, sharing simple meals that tasted like ambrosia in each other's company. The emotional depth of these moments brought inspiration. I started writing that book, dedicating chapters to her, while she created a portrait of us, capturing the essence of souls intertwined. But Victor's interference escalated. He showed up at her door one night, demanding a meeting, his intentions veiled in false concern. We confronted him together, my voice firm as I declared our unity, but his parting words lingered. You don't know the full story. What hidden truth did he hold, and how would it test our love? Resolution came in waves. The surgery was a success, Elena emerging stronger, her heart mended not just physically but emotionally through our connection. We moved to my small town, building a life of quiet joys, walks hand in hand, her blue dress a staple in our shared closet, my gray coat draped over her on chilly evenings. The romantic depth evolved into everyday magic, inspiring neighbors with our story of second chances. Tears of joy replaced those of sorrow, as we celebrated milestones, her first exhibition, my book's publication, both tributes to resilience. In the end, our accidental touch proved that love finds us when we least expect it, teaching that vulnerability is the gateway to profound healing. Embrace the unexpected, for it may lead to the greatest inspirations of your life. Viewers, from which country are you watching this story? If this tale touched your heart, hit like and subscribe for more life-changing stories that remind us of love's enduring power.